It is my pleasure to now introduce our guest speaker, Adrian Bonenberger. Adrian is a valorously decorated combat veteran from 2 deployments to Afghanistan with the 173rd Airborne and the 10th Mountain Division. He also spent 2.5 months training Ukrainian forces between 2022 and 23. He is a published author and is a founding member and president of the Emeritus of the Yale Veterans Association. Adrian resides in Brantford, Connecticut with his wife and son. He currently serves as a member of Brantford's representative town meeting. Mr. Bonenberger, thank you. And we await your speech.
Say a prayer to the wind gods that this doesn't get blown away. I met Adam Davis late in the summer of 2006. I was a second lieutenant, recently posted to Vicenza, Italy with the 173rd Airborne, making the rounds on staff duty on a Saturday night. I would have rather been anywhere else. I knew barely anyone at my new unit, so I ended up at my company's barracks checking in on things there. The enlisted soldiers were grilling, drinking beer, letting loose after a week of training. Davis was one of several soldiers who immediately approached me. He was genial, and while I don't remember exactly what we talked about, music, video games probably, I do remember being struck by his good nature. You can tell some people just have that glow. They radiate positivity. He was short, a kid, practically 18 years old at the time. I knew from the sergeants that Davis wasn't a great soldier, but everyone liked him. Again, he was positive, good-natured. That's important in a unit. Less than a year later, he was dead, blown up by an IED that destroyed his vehicle and killed the other 4 paratroopers inside. There's a word in the English language that I'm sure everyone here knows. True. These days, people usually mean it in the scientific or legal sense. If a thing is true, that means it's verifiable. People will testify to it in court. Studies and investigations can verify it. In Latin, the origin of the word verify is veritas. That's how the Romans would have expressed our idea of truth. So where does our word true come from? In German, the word treue means loyal. One can see its origins in Old English, Truth, or Old High German, Recht. In Vulgar Latin, this is related to the word dructus, which describes the members of a leader's warband, and which can be seen in various Slavic languages as drug, or close friend. The characteristic that describes those warriors who make up the dructus is, of course, loyalty. That is the original meaning of our word true. Isn't it remarkable that the word we have come to use to mean scientifically and legally solid in its original form meant the person who shows up to serve his Lord in battle? A little later, that person becomes an idea, the key characteristic of the person who shows up to serve his Lord in battle. That's the term that we felt was so important that it drew us all here today. We're standing here out of loyalty to people who answered our nation's call, and the nations and kingdoms and tribes that led to our nation when they called. We're here to honor truth, Troia, dructus. We like to think of ourselves as a nation and people of laws, and we are. But law depends on truth, verifying what is true and what is not. And truth is, at its base, the people who will show up to fight for the country during war. I remember many soldiers on Memorial Day. Folks I know personally who died fighting in Iraq or Afghanistan, others with whom I was less well acquainted. Fellow citizens and Americans who gave their lives serving their nation. But as time goes on, my thoughts return to Adam Davis, that young man who wanted to serve in the military because, as he understood it, That was the right thing to do. He took the full measure of his life, what he would have otherwise done with the decades he'd have if he had lived. He took that in his hands and placed it on the table. He gave it for us. What was the point of that sacrifice, that gift? I will tell you because I was there. I spent over 2 years in Afghanistan, the rough parts, fighting Taliban and negotiating with tribes, trying to advance our American project alongside citizen soldiers just like us. The point was to give Afghanistan a chance at something like what we have here. It was to spread democracy and humanism to places that did not embrace them. It was to give them a small measure of our inheritance. Cynics will say that it was actually about oil or military contracts or the great game or realpolitik. But that's not why any of us over there were fighting day to day, and it isn't why soldiers like Adam Davis gave their lives. No. Patrolling in the rural and mountainous deserts of Afghanistan's east, walking the same trails as shepherds and nomads, we were on a mission not of war, but of peace and prosperity. That's probably not what historians are going to write. And what I'm saying right now isn't particularly popular or politically expedient. Nobody wants to hear what's easily dismissed as naive and empty idealism. But America's military was and still is made up of citizen soldiers who believe in those ideas. It's how I, a 27-year-old junior officer from Connecticut, met an 18-year-old kid named Adam Davis from Idaho while both of us were stationed in Italy and deployed to Afghanistan, where Adam died. And I want to be very clear about something. What we did there was not useless. The fellow citizens, loyal citizens, true citizens, who gave their lives there did so as part of a long, honorable, and virtuous legacy stretching back centuries, even millennia, an ideal without which our nation could not exist. This Memorial Day, we remember those citizens who showed up when called, who were loyal, who, while serving in our nation's armed forces, died fighting the nation's enemies. We remember them because that is how we can demonstrate our loyalty to them, just as they demonstrated their loyalty to us. We honor their sacrifice and pray that a similar sacrifice will not be necessary in the future, knowing that if the day does come when we are called, that we will answer as they have, with enthusiasm, selflessness, and loyalty.